The medical officer handed me the datapad without meeting my eyes. Sergeant Kane, you need to see this. I'd been awake for 37 hours straight, running combat ops on the Meridian front, and the last thing I needed was another bureaucratic mess. But the image on the screen made my exhaustion evaporate like steam in vacuum. A Velhari female, unconscious in a medical pod. Young, maybe barely past their equivalent of adolescence. And on her upper arm, visible through the clear bandaging, fresh black ink in standard script. Sergeant Marcus Kane, Terran Marines, do not separate. What the hell is this? I asked, my voice flat. We found her in the wreckage of the transport that went down in Sector 7, the medical officer explained. She's the only survivor. Total memory loss, trauma-induced amnesia. She doesn't know her name, her unit, nothing. That tattoo is literally the only information we have. I stared at the image. I'd never seen this Velhari before in my life. And you think I know her because your name is tattooed on her arm, Sergeant. The medical officer finally looked at me, and I saw the exhaustion in his eyes that probably mirrored my own. Protocol says we contact you. She woke up an hour ago. First thing she did was ask for you. The Velhari were our allies in this war, but they weren't close allies. They fought on the same side because the Kraith threatened everyone, not because they particularly liked humans. They were small, barely reaching my shoulder, with opalescent skin that shifted colors with their emotions. Their military structure was completely different from ours. We coordinated, we didn't integrate. So why did this one have my name permanently marked on her skin? I want to see her, I said. The medical bay was quiet, most of the casualties from the last engagement already processed, and either back to duty or shipped home. The Velhari female sat on the edge of a medical bed, her legs dangling, not quite reaching the floor. Her skin flickered between pale blue and gray, fear and confusion, if I remembered my xenopsych briefings correctly. She looked up when I entered. Her eyes were large, typical for her species, but there was something in them that made my chest tighten. Desperation. Hope. Fear. You're Marcus Kane, she said. Not a question. Sergeant Kane, yes. I stopped a few feet away, keeping my distance professional. And you are? I don't know. Her standard was perfect, no translator needed. They tell me I should know, but I don't. I don't know anything except... She touched the bandage on her arm. Except this. Except you. I've never met you before. The colors on her skin shifted to a darker gray. You're certain? I'd remember. I kept my voice neutral, but something about the way she seemed to shrink made me add. That doesn't mean we don't have a connection. I just don't know what it is yet. They said... She hesitated. They said this is a Velhari bonding mark, that I chose to have your name written on my skin in the old way, with permanent ink, that it means. Her colors shifted again, almost purple now. Embarrassment? That it means you're my designated companion, my bond partner. I felt like I'd been hit with a stun round. That's not possible, I said. The Velhari don't bond with humans. It's not done. I know. Her voice was small. But I did it anyway. I must have had a reason. The medical officer cleared his throat from the doorway. Sergeant, command needs a decision. She can't stay in medical indefinitely, and without any records or identification, she's technically classified as a refugee. But that tattoo creates a legal complication. Under Velhari law, a bonding mark creates certain obligations. Obligations, I repeated, still trying to process this. She's your responsibility now, the medical officer said, unless you formally reject the bond, which would require Velhari diplomatic approval, and could take weeks. In the meantime, she's assigned to your custody. I looked at the small figure on the medical bed. She was watching me with those large eyes, her skin colors shifting through shades I couldn't quite interpret. I don't even know your name, I said to her. Neither do I, she replied. So I suppose we'll have to figure that out together. I should have walked away. Should have kicked this up to command and let the bureaucrats sort it out. But something in her voice, in the way she said together, made me pause. Fine, I said. You stay with me until we figure this out, but we're getting answers. Her skin shifted to a soft, warm gold. Relief? Dots. Thank you, Marcus Kane. Just Kane, I said. If you're going to be attached to me, we skip the formalities. I like that better anyway. That's how I ended up with a Velhari companion I'd never met, whose name I didn't know, and whose very existence was a mystery I didn't have time to solve. The war didn't stop for personal complications. I'd been assigned temporary quarters in the officer's wing, a benefit of my rank that I rarely used, preferring to bunk with my squad. Now, I was grateful for the extra space as I watched my unexpected companion examine every corner of the small room with quiet curiosity. You can take the bed, I said, dropping my gear bag on the floor. I'll take the chair. She turned to look at me, her skin shifting to a questioning silver. You need rest more than I do. The medical officer said I slept for 2 days, and you almost died in a transport crash. Bed. That's an order. You're not my commanding officer. But there was no heat in her words, and after a moment, she sat on the edge of the bed. What do I call you if I can't use your rank? I told you. Kane Dine. No, I mean, what am I to you? What's my role? She touched her arm again, a gesture I was starting to recognize as nervous habit. If I'm your companion, what does that mean in human terms? I sat down in the chair, suddenly aware of how exhausted I actually was. In human terms, it doesn't mean anything. We don't have an equivalent. But in Velhari terms? I rubbed my face, trying to remember the cultural briefings I'd half slept through. From what I understand, a companion is someone chosen to be a partner. Not romantic necessarily, but a bond that goes deeper than friendship. Someone who fights beside you, who knows your mind, who... I trailed off, feeling awkward. Who belongs with you, she finished softly. Yes, that's what it means. I don't own you. I didn't say you did. Her color shifted to something almost amused, pale green with hints of gold. Belonging isn't the same as being owned. It's choosing where you fit. And you chose to fit with me, apparently. I must have had a good reason. Before I could respond, my comm unit buzzed. Captain Reeves' voice crackled through. Kane, briefing in 20. We've got movement on the eastern perimeter. Might be a probe, might be the real thing. Copy that, I replied, then looked at my companion. I have to go. She stood immediately. I'll come with you. No. You'll stay here where it's safe. I'm Velhari military. Her skin darkened to a stubborn steel blue. I may not remember my name, but I know how to fight. I can feel it. You just recovered from a crash I survived when no one else did. She stepped closer, and I realized that despite her small size, she had a presence that commanded attention. You said we'd figure this out together. That starts with letting me be what I am, not what you think I should be. I stared at her, recognizing the fire in her eyes. I'd seen it in every good soldier I'd ever served with. Fine. But you stay close to me, and you follow my orders. Clear? Clear. The briefing was tense. Captain Reeves laid out the situation. Kraith scouts had been spotted near our forward positions. Small numbers, but that's how it always started. We need a recon team, Reeves said. We need a recon team, Reeves said. 4 personnel, light and fast. Kane, you're leading. Yes, sir. I glanced at my companion, who stood quietly beside me, her presence drawing curious looks from the other soldiers. Lieutenant Park raised an eyebrow. Sergeant, is that the Velhari from medical? The one with the situation? She's cleared for duty, I said, keeping my voice flat. She doesn't even have a name on file. Then we'll call her Vel until we find her real one, I replied. It wasn't elegant, but it worked. The Velhari Vel turned to look at me, her colors shifting to that warm gold again. She didn't say anything, but I felt like I'd passed some kind of test. Reeves assigned Park and Corporal Hassan to round out the team. Both were solid soldiers, and neither commented on Vel's presence as we geared up. The terrain outside the base was rocky and treacherous, perfect for ambush. We moved in standard formation with me on point and Vel, despite my initial instinct to protect her, taking rear guard without being asked. She moves well, Hassan commented quietly over the squad comm. Like she's done this before. Muscle memory, I replied, watching Vel navigate the rocks with fluid grace. The mind forgets, but the body remembers. 2 hours into the patrol, Vel raised her hand in the Velhari signal for stop. I froze, the team going silent. She pointed to a cluster of rocks ahead, then made a series of quick hand signals. I didn't recognize all of them, but the meaning was clear. Hostiles, multiple contacts, concealed position. I signaled the team to spread out. Park moved left, Hassan right. I gestured for Vel to stay with me. She shook her head and pointed to herself, then to the right flank. Before I could object, she'd melted into the shadows, moving with a silence that made Hassan look clumsy by comparison. Kane, she's breaking formation, Park whispered over comm. I see it. I tracked Vel's movement, saw her circle wide around the hostile position. She knows what she's doing. What happened next took less than 30 seconds. Vel appeared behind the Kraith scouts, 3 of them, armed but unaware. She moved like water, disarming the first before he could cry out, using his own weapon to disable the second, dropping the third with a strike I barely saw. By the time we reached her position, all 3 hostiles were unconscious and restrained. Vel, I said carefully. That was efficient, Park finished, staring at the Velhari female with new respect. Vel's skin was shifting through rapid color changes. Adrenaline, I realized. She was breathing hard, and when she looked at me, there was something almost frightened in her expression. I didn't think, she said. I just moved. Like you said, the body remembers. I stepped closer, keeping my voice low. You did good. Really good. Her colors stabilized to a soft blue. I was worried you'd be angry. That I broke formation. You saved our lives. I'm not angry. I surprised myself by putting a hand on her shoulder, but next time, signal your intentions first. We're a team. A team, she repeated. And something in the way she said it made me realize this was important to her. Not just being useful, but being part of something. Being part of my something. Back at base, Hassan and Park spread the word about what happened. By evening mess, everyone knew that Kane's mysterious Velhari companion was not some civilian refugee, but a trained soldier who'd taken down 3 Kraith scouts without breaking a sweat. You've got yourself a warrior, Reeve said when he called me to his office. Question is, what are we going to do with her? If she's going to be assigned to me anyway, might as well make it official. You realize this is unprecedented. A Velhari serving in a human squad? Yes, sir. Reeve studied me for a long moment. There's something else, isn't there? Something about this bonding mark business. I don't know what you mean, sir. Kane, I've known you for 3 years. You don't get attached to anything or anyone. You're the best soldier I have because you keep your distance. Now suddenly you're vouching for an alien you met yesterday? I thought about Vel's expression when she'd asked what she was supposed to call me. The hope in her eyes when I'd said she did good. Maybe it's time I changed that, sir. Reeves shook his head, but he was almost smiling. Dismissed, Sergeant. And, Kane, don't make me regret this. When I got back to quarters, Vel was sitting cross-legged on the floor, a data pad in her lap. She looked up when I entered. I've been reading about Velhari bonding customs, she said. Trying to understand what I did, why I did it, and the tattoo is permanent because the bond is supposed to be permanent. It's not something done lightly. Her colors shifted to uncertain purple. I must have trusted you completely. Must have believed you were worth binding my life to. We'll figure out why, I said, sitting down across from her. But Vel, whatever happened before, whatever made you choose this, I'm starting to think maybe you knew what you were doing. She smiled, the first real smile I'd seen from her. So am I, Kane. So am I. 3 weeks into our unlikely partnership, I'd learned more about Vel than I knew about soldiers I'd served with for years. She was left-handed. She hummed when she concentrated, a sound almost too high for human hearing. She was brilliant with tactical analysis but terrible at poker. And every night, she dreamed in colors, Velhari emotions made visible in sleep, flickering across her skin like aurora borealis. We'd fallen into a rhythm. Morning briefings, patrol rotations, training exercises. The rest of the squad had accepted her presence, though we still got curious looks from other units. The Velhari military liaison had contacted us twice, asking questions we couldn't answer. Each time, Vel had politely but firmly declined their offers to return her to Velhari command. This is where I belong, she'd said, touching her arm where my name was written. Until I remember why, I'm staying. But tonight felt different. Kane. Vel's voice pulled me from my equipment check. We were prepping for a major offensive, the largest coordinated strike against the Kraith in months. Can I ask you something? Always. Are you afraid to die? The question caught me off guard. I looked at her, standing in the doorway of our shared quarters, her skin a contemplative silver blue. Everyone's afraid to die, I said. The trick is not letting it stop you from doing your job. That's not what I asked. She stepped closer. I asked if you're afraid. You, Marcus Kane. No one called me Marcus except her. I'd stopped correcting her after the first week. Yeah, I admitted. I'm afraid. Not of dying, but of leaving things unfinished, of not mattering. You matter to me. The simplicity of it hit harder than any declaration. I set down the weapon I'd been cleaning. Vel, I remember something, she interrupted, her colors shifting rapidly, excitement, fear, hope. Just a fragment, but it's there. We were in a medical tent. You were injured. And I was so scared that I was going to lose you that I couldn't breathe. I remember thinking that I needed something permanent, something that would keep us connected even if... She trailed off. Even if you forgot, I finished. Even if I forgot, she agreed. I think that's why I got the tattoo. Not because of Velhari tradition, but because I was terrified of losing you, and I needed an anchor. Something that would bring me back to you no matter what. I should have questioned it. Should have asked, what injury, what circumstances? But looking at her, at the hope and fear and trust in her expression, I found I didn't care about the details. You found your way back, I said. That's what matters. The alarm cut through the moment like a blade. All personnel, combat stations. This is not a drill. 15 minutes. Not enough time to finish this conversation. Probably not enough time to properly prepare for what was coming. Gear up, I ordered, slipping back into sergeant mode. This is going to be bad. The Kraith came at dawn, and they came hard. Our defensive positions were solid, but their numbers were overwhelming. I'd been in firefights before, had seen soldiers die, had killed more enemy combatants than I cared to count. But this was different. This was desperation on both sides, us fighting for survival, them fighting for conquest. Vel, stay close, I shouted, over the chaos of weapons, fire, and explosions. She was already there, covering my six like she'd been doing it for years instead of weeks. Her weapon, Velhari design, smaller than human rifles, but just as deadly, tracked targets with mechanical precision. Left flank collapsing. Park's voice crackled over comm. We need support. Hassan, take 3rd Squad and reinforce, I ordered. Vel, we're moving to high ground. Need better visibility. We fought our way up the ridge, every meter paid for in sweat and ammunition. At the top, I could see the full scope of the battle. We were holding, but barely. One more push from the Kraith and our lines would break. Kane, death. Vel's voice was tight. Behind us. I spun. A Kraith strike team had flanked our position, coming up the back of the ridge. 6 of them, heavily armed, and they had us dead to rights. Time seemed to slow. I saw the Lid Kraith's weapon swinging toward Vel. Saw her realize she couldn't get her own weapon up in time. Saw the moment she made a choice. She threw herself at me, her small body hitting mine with surprising force, knocking me aside just as the Kraith fired. The energy bolt caught her instead of me. Vel! She went down hard, her skin flashing through every color I'd ever seen, and some I hadn't, pain made visible. I was firing before conscious thought, dropping the Kraith shooter, then the next, then the next. Somewhere in the back of my mind I registered Park, and Hassan arriving, finishing off the strike team, but all I could focus on was Vel. She was still alive. Barely. You idiot, I said, my hands shaking as I applied pressure to the wound. You stupid, brave idiot. Had to, she gasped, her colors fading to pale gray. Couldn't lose you. Not again. You're not losing me. I'm right here. And you're going to be fine. Marcus. Her hand found mine. Surprisingly strong. I remember everything. Tell me later. After medical, no do be. Now. Her eyes locked on mine. I was your translator. 6 months ago, embedded with your unit during the Saravan campaign. We were pinned down for 3 days. You kept me alive. Kept talking to me, kept me sane. When we got out, I realized I'd never felt safer with anyone. Vel, the injury you mentioned, it was you who got hurt. Shrapnel to the leg. I stayed with you through surgery, through recovery. And when the Velhari High Command said they were pulling me out, reassigning me, I couldn't stand it. So I got the tattoo. Because I needed you to know that no matter where they sent me, I was still yours. Still your companion. Tears were running down her face. Velhari could cry, I'd learned, though they rarely did. The transport that crashed, she continued, her voice getting weaker. I was coming back to you. I'd convinced them to let me return to your unit. And then everything went wrong, and I woke up with nothing but your name. But that was enough. It was always enough. Stop talking, I begged. Save your strength. I need you to know, she whispered. I chose you. Not because of duty, not because of tradition. I chose you because you're the best person I've ever known, and being with you makes me better. Makes me want to be better. Vel, promise me, she said. Promise that if I don't make it, you won't shut down again. Won't go back to being alone. Promise you'll let people in. You're going to make it, I said fiercely. And you can remind me yourself. Medical evac arrived. Finally, and they took her from my arms. I watched them load her onto the transport, saw her skin still flickering with faint colors, proof she was still fighting. She's strong, Park said beside me. Strongest person I know, human or otherwise. She saved my life, yeah. And you've been saving hers every day since she showed up. That's what companions do, right? I looked at him, saw understanding in his eyes. Yeah, I said, that's exactly what we do. The battle raged on, but I fought differently now. Not with the cold efficiency I'd cultivated over years of combat, but with purpose. Every Kraith I dropped was one less threat to the person in medical who'd thrown herself in front of a weapon for me. We won. Barely, but we won. And as soon as the all-clear sounded, I ran for medical. The Velhari physiology is remarkably resilient, the doctors told me. The energy bolt should have killed her, but somehow, she'd survived. 3 days of surgery, 2 more of induced coma, and then, I was sitting beside her medical pod when her eyes opened. Marcus Kane, she said, her voice hoarse but steady. You look terrible. I laughed, the sound surprising me. Yeah, well, you've been unconscious for 5 days. Some of us have been worried. Some of us. Her skin shifted to that teasing pale green I'd come to recognize. All of us. The whole damn squad has been rotating through here. I leaned forward, taking her hand carefully. You scared the hell out of me, Vel. I scared myself. Her colors sobered. Do you remember what I told you? Before medical arrived? Every word. And? Wasami? I squeezed her hand gently, and I've spent 5 days thinking about it. About you. About us. Us, she repeated softly. I looked into Velhari bonding customs. Really looked. Not just the basic briefing stuff. I pulled out a small device from my pocket, a portable printer I'd borrowed from Supply. Did you know that when a Velhari chooses a companion from another species, there's supposed to be a reciprocal mark, something to show the bond goes both ways? Her eyes widened. Marcus, you don't have to. I know I don't have to. I activated the printer, feeling the familiar sting as it etched into my skin. I want to. When I showed her my arm, her colors cycled through a dozen shades I'd never seen, ending on the warmest, brightest gold imaginable. In Velhari script, permanent and clear. Vel, chosen companion, we belong together. You learned Velhari writing, she whispered. I had 5 days, and a very patient xenolinguistics officer. I traced the fresh mark carefully. Your real name is Velara. I found it in the recovered records from the transport. But if you don't mind, I'd like to keep calling you Vel. It's ours, not from your past, but from what we built together. Vel, she said, testing it. I like it. It feels right. Good. Because you're stuck with it. Stuck with me. I chose to be stuck with you, she corrected. 6 months ago, and again when I woke up with no memory, and I'm choosing it now. Every day, I'll choose it. Then I guess we're both stuck. She smiled, and for the first time since the battle, I felt like I could breathe properly. Captain Reeves approved the formal companion designation. It came with paperwork. So much paperwork, but also with official recognition. Vel was transferred permanently to my unit, assigned as my tactical partner with full military honors restored. The Velhari High Command wasn't thrilled, but they couldn't argue with the results. A human Velhari combat team was unprecedented, but it was also undeniably effective. 3 months later, we were running a joint training exercise with a fresh batch of recruits. I watched Vel demonstrate hand-to-hand techniques to a nervous young private, her patience and skill on full display. She's good with them, Park commented, joining me on the observation deck. She's good with everyone, I replied. It's annoying how likable she is, says the guy who hasn't cracked a smile in 3 years until she showed up. I shot him a look, but he wasn't wrong. Vel had changed me, opened something I'd kept locked down since my first deployment. I still did my job, still maintained discipline, but I was softer, more human. That evening, Vel found me on the roof of the barracks, watching the sunset, a luxury we hadn't been able to afford until the recent ceasefire. You're thinking too loud, she said, settling beside me. I can see it from across the base, just reflecting on how my life was completely different 6 months ago. How I thought I had everything figured out. And now? I looked at her, this small, fierce person who'd literally branded herself with my name because she couldn't bear to lose me. Now I know I didn't know anything. About companionship, about trust, about... I hesitated, then decided to just say it, about love. Her colors shifted to that warm gold, with hints of pink I'd learned meant joy. Love is a human concept. Yeah, well, we're pretty good at them sometimes. She leaned against my shoulder, a gesture we'd both come to cherish. The Velhari have a saying, memory fades, but the heart knows its home. I didn't remember you, Marcus, but something deeper than memory led me back. That tattoo was just an anchor. The real connection was already there. You think we were meant to find each other? I think we chose to keep finding each other. Every day, in every battle, in every quiet moment. That's better than fate. That's will. Below us, the base was settling into evening routines. Soldiers heading to mess, others to recreation, a few to the comms center to call home. Normal military life, as normal as it got during wartime. I never thanked you, I said quietly. For saving my life. You save mine every day, she replied. By being exactly who you are. By seeing me as a person, not a trophy or a burden. By choosing to honor a bond you didn't ask for. Best choice I never made, I said, and felt her laughter ripple through the evening air. A year later, the war ended. The Kraith surrendered, their forces broken by the sustained coalition effort. When the news came through, the base erupted in celebration. I found Vel in our quarters, sitting quietly while chaos reigned outside. You okay? I asked. I was just thinking, she said, about what happens now. The war is over. Units will be reassigned, dissolved. We'll both be facing new orders. I sat down beside her, close enough that our shoulders touched. We'll face them together. You're certain? Peace changes things. The companion bond was forged in combat. Maybe it won't survive normal life. Vel? I waited until she looked at me. You woke up with no memory, and my name on your arm. You fought beside me, bled for me, nearly died for me. You think I'm going to walk away now because there's no one shooting at us? Some people do. I'm not some people. I showed her my arm, where her name was permanently etched. We belong together. You said it yourself. That doesn't have an expiration date. Her colors cycled through a dozen shades before settling on that perfect warm gold. So what do we do? She asked. Whatever we want. The galaxy's at peace. We've got skills. We've got each other. Maybe we start a private security firm. Maybe we become military advisors. Maybe we say screw it and open a bar on some backwater planet. A bar? She laughed. You don't even drink. You do though. Velhari whiskey, 3 fingers, no ice. See? I pay attention. You always have. She stood, pulling me up with her. Come on. We should join the celebration. Our squad will wonder where we are. They know where we are. Together. Where we always are. She smiled, took my hand, and led me toward the door. Outside, I could hear music starting up, voices raised in song and laughter. Marcus? She said, pausing at the threshold. Yeah, thank you. For being my home when I had nowhere else to go. Thank you, I replied, for reminding me what it means to let someone in. We stepped out into the celebration together, companion and companion, human and Velhari, 2 people who'd found each other against impossible odds, and chosen to keep finding each other every single day. Her arm bore my name. My arm bore hers. And somewhere between those marks, in the space where memory and will and choice intersected, we'd built something that would outlast any war. We'd built a home. Not a place, but a person. Each other. YouTube description, 1,000 characters. A Velhari survivor is pulled from a crash transport with total amnesia. No name, no records, no past. The only thing she has is a fresh bonding tattoo on her arm. Sergeant Marcus Kane. Do not separate. Sergeant Kane has never seen her before, yet she wakes up asking for him like he's the only thing keeping her anchored. Command calls it a legal complication. Velhari law calls it a permanent companion bond. And in the middle of an escalating frontline war, Kane is suddenly responsible for an alien partner he doesn't remember choosing. As they fight side by side, her instincts prove lethal. Her memories begin to return, and the truth hits like a shockwave. She chose Kane once before, so she could always find her way back, even if her mind broke. An HFI sci-fi drama about war, devotion, and the bond that survives memory itself, because the heart remembers its home. Keywords: HFI, HFICIE, amnesia, memory loss, alien woman, bonding tattoo, companion bond, human marine, Terran Marines, Velhari, wartime romance, found family, military SCI-FI, battlefield partnership, alien ally, SCI-FI drama, SCI-FI drama T. Audiobook.
Irgendwas runtersegelt, ne? So ein EF1, EF2, also da würde ich, also wenn man jetzt wirklich so ein stationäres Ding hat, was langsam zieht, da würde ich die Jungs aber schon sehr nah dran lotsen. Also mit Sicherheit. Also sehr,
Schmeißt der ein Auto?
Sehr nah, ja, kann auch ein Auto. Wir haben ein bisschen Gewicht, ein bisschen Wind halten wir aus, aber ich würde die schon nah ran lotsen. Mit Sicherheit. Und ihr seid halt mit dabei, ne? Aber ich hätte jetzt zum Beispiel gar kein Problem, wenn jetzt hier, keine Ahnung, da drüben, wo jetzt die Bäume sind, also auf dem Video sehen ja diese EF2, die sehen ja auch immer relativ klein aus. In echt hast du ja da schon große Rotation, ne? Also du hast ja trotzdem dann einen Fuß, der da wahrscheinlich 200 Meter breit ist oder sowas, ne? Also auch der Silverton Tornado sah übelst flach aus, aber wenn er wirklich ranzoomt, merkt man, Alter, der hat da auch ordentliche Ausmaße. Und, ne, also auch in der, aber wenn jetzt hier hinten, ne, also nicht hier vorne die Bäume, also hätte ich wahrscheinlich auch kein Problem mit, aber ich sage jetzt mal zumindest diese Baumreihe, die jetzt dahinter steht halt, ne? So, also das sind wahrscheinlich so
die hier vorne mit den hohen
das sind so wahrscheinlich, nee, ja,
die dahinter, die hohen wieder.
Nee, genau die dahinter.
Ach, ich würde aber schon die vordere nehmen. So nah ganz schon ran.
Ja, aber denk dran, ne? Also wenn da hinten der Tornado ist und du hast dann noch diese, also da ist das Zentrum des Tornados und du hast